Hello, welcome to West Coast Biased. I'm Andrew Nemec, joined as always by Jason Suke and Nemec. Suke, how you living,
What
man?
up?
How are you?
I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving. I've started to game plan. I got my play sheet out for what I'm going to drink on Thanksgiving. I like to take a very Kyle Shanahan approach to my drinking on Thanksgiving. I like to get my
What does
one
that
sheet.
mean? That
I like
could
to
mean
get
anything.
I like to get my play sheet out, right? And I like to
Okay.
script. I like to script my first like 6 plays, coming out of the gate strong. And then after that, we've got an idea of where we want to go in the liquor barrel. But hey, we're open to situational stuff. But yeah, I got to start planning. I can't start drinking all day if I don't first thing in the morning. So I love Thanksgiving. No one makes me cook because I can't cook.
Because you're
So
drunk.
well, I don't start the day drunk. But
Right,
here's
that's
the thing, I have no responsibilities. No one in my family wants me to do anything. I'm put in charge of nothing. Therefore, like everyone wakes up at my house at like 8:30 and starts cooking, and it's
Mhm.
amazing. I'll get like cinnamon rolls at like 8:30, and then periodically, like every hour, a new thing becomes available to eat. And so by like 8:45, I just start drinking. And then like it just carries me out the rest of the day. And I just watch football and I drink. And then I end the evening in a hot tub with a glass of Lagavulin 16 and a cigar. It might be the best day of the year. I mean, it's
Dude,
go
you are
time.
living an offensive lineman's dream.
Yeah, it's
Bring me
phenomenal.
different food every hour.
Yeah,
Let me drink starting early. I'm going to watch good football because there's always good matchups Thursday. I'm going to watch
always.
good football all day Thursday, and I'm going to get in
Yeah.
a hot tub to end the day.
Yeah, and there's a pretty Asian lady, there's a pretty Japanese lady that brings me food and liquor.
It's
Like,
good.
what am I doing? It's like Caligula over here. Let's go.
I live a different life. I go figure.
Yeah.
I do some of the cooking. I don't do all of the cooking, but I do a good portion, and I will almost certainly be sober this year because I'm still dealing with some pretty severe stomach issues, although it is improving.
Quitter.
I know, quitter. I'm in charge of the mac and cheese, and I think that's one of those things where my side of the family, obviously white, my wife's side of the family, African American. Um, Mac and cheese tends to lean like there are certain food items that lean more towards the African American side in terms of they do it better, right?
Yeah.
So I love my mom; she makes a good mac, but it's not quite like
Yeah.
So I've got to make the mac and cheese. I will probably make either cornbread or cornbread stuffing. I've become a very good cornbread maker. My cornbread is like
It's
aces,
elite.
like
Nice.
legitimately amazing cornbread. I make really good cornbread. So I'll make some cornbread, and that might be it. I normally am in charge of the mashed potatoes, but Costco has like mashed potato pallets,
Yeah.
and they're really
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 good.
good. They put like a half a cube of butter on top,
Yeah.
and you can just heat that up, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And so there's no point to peeling all the potatoes and doing all that
Yeah.
if Costco's kind of got you covered.
Yeah.
So I'm told my mom made a Costco run this morning. I got the text, "Hey, I'm on my way." 2 pallets of mash, right? I'm like, yeah, 2 pallets. So we're pretty well set up. Are you a pie guy in any way, shape, or form?
Oh yeah. Now again, I don't cook. Like it's laughable. If I attempted, like if I went in and told my daughters and my gal that I was going to cook something, I would get laughed at and told to leave the kitchen.
Really?
I will go in and be
See,
like,
I'm
"Hey,
the cook in my family. In our household, I'm the one who cooks.
I could go
More,
in
I'm
and
the better cook.
I could just go in and say, "Hey, do you guys need some help?" And I will be told to get out. I'm not even allowed to roll. We make like the lumpia or like dumplings. We do
Okay,
both.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not even allowed to roll. Like there's like a whole rolling party, and they won't even let me do that. One year, I may have turned that into like a
Food fight
dirty thing.
situation.
Well, I may have been trying to make penises.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was
There
like,
you go.
I was
Yeah.
taking dumplings and then the lumpia, and then that was the end of. I was told that I can't take it seriously, therefore I was asked to leave. Like no one wants. Like I literally get booted out, and then I just like I get brought stuff to like taste. Like as they're cooking them, they're like, "Here, try this. What do you think?" So I just sit in my chair, and that's like what I do. And so it's like it's amazing. And we don't do. You mentioned you have like black food, white food.
Yeah.
And by the way, anyone that's like, oh, black food, there is black food and there's white food.
Oh, for
It is.
sure.
So
Greens and ham hocks and
yeah,
mac and cheese and cornbread stuffing and come on.
we don't do Thanksgiving, like traditionally. We don't have any real traditional Thanksgiving dishes.
You're just saying you punted white food to the curb?
Yeah,
That's generally a good decision. Like over the course of my experience dating, if you punt the white food out and go with the other culture's food, you're generally getting at a higher clip.
Well, years and years ago, when we kind of stopped, we branched off from the family and we just were like, we're going to do our own thing. No one really liked turkey or ham or anything like that. We'd go over to like my, family's house or whatever. And no one wanted ham, no one wanted turkey. So when we started doing our own thing, we were like, we don't have to do that. So we started doing Korean barbecue. So my kids, my late wife, my wife that passed away, she was Korean, and my current, I should say permanent. Sorry, honey. My forever love.
My current wife.
My current wife. Yeah. Hopefully she doesn't listen to that. The current spouse.
The permanent spouse.
The permanent spouse. So she's Japanese. And so we do like this amalgamation of Asian food. So we do bulgogi. She does karage, which is Japanese fried chicken. We do a fried rice. We'll do like a ting ting noodle. We do the lumpia. We'll do crab puffs or something like that. So we do that. I think the only thing, like we'll do a mac and cheese. My daughter makes a really good mac and cheese. So we'll do a mac and cheese. Like a spicy buffalo mac and cheese or something. And we'll have like maybe a spinach artichoke dip. But like if you came over, you're not going to get any real traditional. There's usually not potatoes. There's usually not stuffing. It's not. We just don't do.
Definitely no turkey.
No. So it's Thanksgiving, and we kind of just do a hodgepodge. We just invite. If people don't have a place to go, like some friends and stuff, I'll be like, dude, just come over. So I've got a buddy of mine who's single. We've got some friends that come down that don't really have family in the area. So we kind of do a nomads Thanksgiving, where if you don't have a place to go, you just come over to my place and we have a ton of really good food. And
I want to have no place to go. That sounds good. We're just gonna drink. We're just gonna drink all day, and I can go in and pretend I have no ability to cook. Right? I can just set the bars like, hey, I'm.
So if you need a place to go, you come on over to the Couve. And yes, there are pies. I have a buddy that usually comes over, and his wife is an amazing pie maker. And then my daughter. So my daughter usually makes like an apple pie. And then my buddy that is coming. I don't know if he's coming this year. Because like I said, we just kind of have an open door policy. But his wife, I think one year she brought over like 9 pies. Like she makes pies for like a living. Like in like cells. So dude, there's just so many stuff. Because if you're not into pie, like what are you doing? Like pie is where it's at.
I wasn't until like 2 years ago. And then I had a Dutch apple pie that had the right amount of like the granola-y brown sugar on top.
I believe that is like a strudel topping.
Whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anything about pies. My wife can bake and I can cook. Yeah. So I know nothing about it. It's like, eat this. And it's like, oh, I don't really like pie. I'll pass. They're like, no, you're eating this. And it's like, oh, this is really good. So I will do a Dutch apple pie, like a chocolate pie. But I'm not a big pie, like a pumpkin pie I'm out on. Like
I'm not a pumpkin pie. But you give me like a pecan pie.
I've had a good pecan pie before.
There's like dude, they make all that. There's so many good pies out there. There's one, I said the people that come over, my buddy's wife, she makes this, it's like it's like a pecan pie with like a whiskey cream sauce like on top of it.
Yeah.
Dude, it's basically just like you're inhaling heroin. It's like a fentanyl lean pie. It's so freaking good. And like she makes the chocolate cream pie. And look, bottom line is if you have pie of some sort, even if it's not my favorite pie, what am I going to not eat pie? And for God's sakes, that's the whole, like say there's punch and pie, but we don't have punch and pie. If you say there's punch and pie, people will show up. Why? Because there's punch and pie. Everyone loves pie. If you're like, hey, you want pie? I've never once in my life had someone be like, hey, do you want pie?
See, I'm not like a big cherry pie guy either.
Cherry pie.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking about pies.
A couple years ago, my son goes to the University of Oregon. He is a junior at the University of Oregon. A couple years ago, he decided he has to split up his Thanksgiving. Like it's not a big deal. And so on Thanksgiving Day, he went to his dad's house, and that would be a all white Thanksgiving at this point. Yeah. And we got a text from the table, never doing this again. bland food.
Yeah.
Did you guys make the mac and cheese? And so I took a picture of my plate, which was, cornbread and mac and cheese. It's an amalgamation of various cultures on our side. And he was like, I'm just gonna come tonight. And so he came over and made himself this huge plate of what he would say is like the black and white, the mix up, the mosh of various cultures, and was like, oh, thank God. I thought I was gonna go over. So sometimes the traditionals can be blamed. So it sounds like the only like semi-traditional food that you have is mac and cheese then. So there can't be a ranking. We can't do like a what's your favorite thing.
My favorite,
for you, it's number one is alcohol.
Yeah.
Number two is your cigar, and then number three is mac and cheese. And
stuffing. Stuffing would be my number one. If I had to go with the traditional Thanksgiving, stuffing. If I had to eat one thing, stuffing. So if you make a good stuffing, you will get me to. Because we'll go to a Friendsgiving. We went to one, I don't know, a week or two ago with some, my gals got like a little group. The Asians gather in their own little community. And so we do like, it's funny. So we go to the Asian Thanksgiving to actually eat American food. Go figure, right?
Is it like an assimilation thing or just?
Yeah. It's a strange.
Are they cosplaying now?
It's something, and it's all different kinds of Asians, right? Because like she's Japanese, and then the person whose house that we go to, they're like Filipino, and then there's a Chinese. It's a whole thing, but like they do traditional. So we went over there and we had turkey, we had ham, we had stuffing, we had all that stuff, and hands down, if we're talking traditional Thanksgiving, and I have to power rank what's on the menu of the traditional settlers Thanksgiving, there's not even it's not even a competition. Stuffing is clear and away number one, and then after that, I mean everything else, like I like a nice moist turkey. I'm a turkey more than ham. You do a nice mashed potato, you do a good mac and cheese. I mean, I'll eat any of that stuff, but if you give me a good stuffing with a good gravy, I can deal with anything else. I can deal with the dry turkey. I can deal with
gravy all over it.
Exactly. So just give me a moist, delicious stuffing, and you give me a good gravy, and we're going to be good. I can handle anything else, and then give me a halfway decent dessert. And then you better have something. You better have something brown. You better have I don't know. You better have maybe some champagne, or if you want, or like maybe a nice table wine. Just bring me something. Don't make me be sober while I'm sitting there pretending to care what the hell's going on.
I joked about cosplaying. I feel like I am the cosplay cook on Thanksgiving in that way too, because I brought my wife to my side of the family's Thanksgiving, and it was like, we're going to need some spices and some seasonings in this, or you're going to have to learn to make some of this stuff. So she normally works Thanksgiving and the day before. So I then like kind of took up the mantle of like, okay, if you give me a recipe, I will try to make, your side of the family stuff. Like, so a few years ago I'm not good at greens. I've given up, but I do make cornbread. I can make a cornbread stuffing, and then I make mac and cheese. So I've learned to kind of address her Thanksgiving needs so that we hit it out of the park.
That's
anyway.
Good.
Yeah, you got to, right? I think I'd rather do it your way, where I set the bar at a perfectly low place, and it's like I'll be drunk all day and I'll eat what you make. Mine's a little more
well, I raised my kids on like I said, unfortunately I was a widow, so I raised the kids mostly on my own, and it was once described to me, and this is a hand to God honest thing. We were because my gal is a phenomenal cook, and we were talking about it, and she was like, what did you do before me? I was like, I cooked all the meals. And my daughter looked at me and she goes, Dad, if I had to describe your cooking, I would say you tried your best. And I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
I was how my cooking was described to me, as you tried your best. And that's, you know what? Go get them. I tried it. The kids ate. I'm not going to say it was good, but the kids ate. A lot of crock pots, a lot of simple recipes, and a lot of steak and potatoes and meat and rice. There's a lot of, I got a bunch of steaks over here, and you're getting a bunch of cup like instant rices, and shut up and eat it.
Pivoting to the real stuff, the football world. I did not rewatch the entire Duck game. I rewatched a good portion of it. And I was surprised at the narrative coming out of that game nationally. I saw from a number of folks like, hey, USC's now not that far away. Yeah. And like they hung with Oregon.
I don't believe that for a second.
Are people high? Like what are we talking about? This is a USC team that has had the same issue of lack of toughness in the trenches. And I got so many people because I don't know how to say his name. I think is it JD Pickle? Is that or Pickell? He works for On3, I think.
Yeah.
He normally does a really, really, really good job. I really genuinely like his takes. I think they're well reasoned. I think he makes a lot of sense most of the time. I don't think he's a hot take guy all the time.
Sure.
And he was saying this proves that USC is not really that far away. Okay. And I said, counter, Oregon was missing. I mean, I don't have to go over it again, but Oregon was missing a bunch of players. They were missing receivers, so you knew they were going to lean on the run anyway because the passing attack wouldn't work. Then they had a lineman out. And they still put together an 8-minute drive at the end of the game, largely dictated pacing of that game. And USC coached afraid. Like Oregon, in every way, dictated that contest. And USC fans were like, we were missing guys too. And it's like, I'm not basing you guys being soft on one game. I saw the Illinois game. Like I've watched you guys for years. USC continually has this problem in the trenches where they're just simply not very good. And then they invest a ton in skill positions. The skill position guys are great, but they just cannot hang or even help the rest of the team stay afloat in any competitive manner against good teams in the trenches, and teams abuse them. And Illinois to me is the barometer of that, because when Oregon has played Illinois, they've just been physically overwhelming, right? Like Illinois has no chance. I like to say Illinois kind of has a B to B plus player everywhere, but never any A plus guy. So when Oregon comes in with depth and talent, they just sort of like wash them out because there's no place where Illinois even has an advantage. USC played that Illinois team and lost, and should have lost badly. And that Illinois team is nothing special. They're just like pretty tough, pretty well-rounded. Unless you have a glaring weakness, Illinois cannot beat you. And USC lost. And I just don't get the narrative that this game proved that USC was close. I think if Oregon's fully healthy and USC is fully healthy, Oregon throws a little more, they run even more effectively, and they probably put up 14 more points. And I don't necessarily think USC's game plan changes much at all. They got a lot of garbage yards through the air. They couldn't run a lick. I think if their line was back, they'd run slightly better. But I just don't get the narrative that if you come out of this game and say Oregon's a little bit flawed and USC is close, that's the takeaway nationally, because I thought Oregon actually dominated them in every real way and was never actually threatened. I mean, they ran with Bryce Betcher in the first half. I mean, they knew they were winning that game.
They ran with Bryce Betcher and 3 other defensive guys. And by the way, go watch that player. Murray Washington should go be an offensive tackle. Good Lord, dude.
Go be a left guard or something, right guard.
Wiped an entire side of that line, washed it down. It was actually a really, really good block for a defensive lineman. I was kind of like, damn, even Barry Alexander was playing the fullback and ended up having a good one. I thought Tuioti was in there, but it turns out that was just their fullback that also weighs 44. I was like, are they just putting the entire defense on there? But no, I agree. And I'm not here to crap all over USC. It's funny, we did the show and Oregon fan thought I was crapping all over them, and that was far from it. I try to take a 30,000-foot view on this. And to me, USC is the Dallas Cowboys of college football, in that we know that they have talent. We know that they can be flashy and put up points, but we spend far too much time talking about a team that isn't that relevant. And by the way, I'll go all the way back. We'll go back 20 plus years. Like, it's funny when you watch the little Dan Lanning, whatever the hype video that they do, which, this will piss Oregon fan off. But for a team that says they're not fighting for clicks, boy, they sure do put out a lot of stuff to get clicks. Just saying, Trojan funeral, they get a lot of clicks, but they win games. So when you win games, you can put out little vignettes and people think you're really clever.
They not like us, Sue.
They're not like us. But if we want to go back, like I got recruited by USC, and like I said, I'm an old man, but when I was getting recruited, it was John Robinson, and USC was not great. I remember when I was getting recruited by him, and dude, my dumbass went to BYU, so what do I know? But when I was getting recruited by USC, dude, USC was like a 500 football team. Like they weren't. And then it went to Paul Hackett, and Paul Hackett was terrible too. So, I mean, I'm going back into my old ass into like 96. I just went like 6-6, John Robinson, 6-6, Paul Hackett, 8-5, 6-6, 5-7. And then they hired Pete Carroll. Okay. Mm-hmm. By the way, Pete Carroll was like their 5th choice. Boy, you want to talk about revisionist history. Like no one wanted Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was a failed NFL coach. He literally was their 5th choice. And when they hired him, people were like, what the hell? And he went 6-6. And then we know what happened, right? USC went on a generational run. USC went on a decade of like, whoa, one of the best modern runs that we've seen in the world of college football.
And finished number 1 or number 2 in the recruiting rankings, something like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, because they played the SEC game and they're like, well, we can pay players too. What a novel approach.
Where no one else in the region was coming close to that at the time.
Dude, they were the cock of the walk. And this is where I'll go with the Dallas Cowboys. We spend far too much time talking about them. USC is closer to Nebraska than they are to Ohio State or anyone else, and any of those other elite teams. So since Pete Carroll left, which by the way was 2010, well, it was 2009, so 2010. So it's been a while.
We're close to 15 years. We're right at that 15-year mark.
15 years. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons where they've won 10 games.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is over Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Clay Helton, Lincoln Riley. Look, we've got 8-5, 7-6. I got 9-4. I got 5-7. I got 8-5. I got 7-6. I got 8-3.
Yeah.
This is USC. So this idea, like when they were like, hey, Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush are walking through that door. No, they're not.
Right.
And look, I thought Lincoln Riley was coming in. If you would have asked me 4 years ago when Lincoln Riley got hired and Dan Lanning got hired, the trajectory of those two programs, I would have said Oregon's kind of here, but I would have said USC's going here. I was like, Lincoln Riley was the hottest name in college football. The SEC wanted him, the NFL wanted him. NIL was just cracking off, and USC supposedly was one of the first people to kind of really embrace it. And they were doing like the Hollywood hype videos, and we have all these agents, and you want to come to LA, and we're going to get you money, we're going to get you laid, we're going to get you, a Lamborghini. I was like, oh, here it comes. Rodney Dangerfield. Hey, we're all going to get laid. I was like, here comes USC, and done squat. I mean, outside of that first year where they had Caleb Williams and got their ass kicked by Utah in the Rose Bowl, they've done nothing under Lincoln Riley. So this idea that USC is this juggernaut that's just waiting, around. I asked the question, is it? Now, don't get me wrong. USC is a good job and you got resources down there, but we act like USC has had this 40-year run of dominance and just these elite coaches. And by the way, the coaches that they've had there, Lane Kiffin is now viewed as a really good coach. Steve Sarkisian is viewed as a really good coach. Lincoln Riley was viewed as a really good coach. And what has it led to? By the way, the funny thing, who has 2 of those? I mentioned 4 10-win seasons. Who has 2 of them? Clay Helton.
Yeah, that's wild.
Clay Helton has them.
And people forget, and I go back to this, and the most shocking stat of the entire Clay Helton era was that he finished an early signing period 12th in the Pac-12 in recruiting. USC had a recruiting class under Clay Helton that was last in the Pac-12 after the December early signing period.
You have these three elite coaches that are all making $10+ million that are wanted by all these jobs. And Clay Helton has 2, arguably Clay Helton, he has an 11-3. Lincoln Riley went 11-3 1 year. Clay Helton has had as good a season as anyone at USC since Pete Carroll left. So look, I don't know if USC next year, takes the step, but this idea that you're just always one away at USC, tell you what, man, I've been hearing that for 15 years. I heard it with Lane Kiffin. I heard it with Steve Sarkisian. We heard it with Clay Helton, and I believed it with Lincoln Riley. So shame on me.
I did too.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, fool me 4 times. And I'm not a USC hater. But there was at no point going into this week that I think USC was on par with Oregon. I didn't think they were on par with Ohio State. No. They surprised me in Michigan, although Michigan's not that good. But you beat Michigan. When your signature win in 4 years is Iowa or Michigan, this year's Iowa or Michigan team.
4 years.
Then I don't know what to tell you. But like to me, I just wake me when USC actually does something that is worth me paying attention to. Because right now you're just Nebraska of the West. Because I hear the same thing at Nebraska. Right? It was Tom Osborne and then it was Frank Solich, and here it comes. And we've gone down the list of all these different coaches now and same thing. We've chewed through 4 or 5 of them. And I keep getting told that this next guy is the guy that's going to return Nebraska into glory. And every year I look up and you've won 8 games and I'm like, cool. At least Notre Dame, is relevant. Notre Dame has kind of risen from that. But USC, dude, you're closer to Nebraska than you are Ohio State and Notre Dame or Michigan, someone like that. Because Michigan's kind of had a little bit of that same trajectory, but Michigan's had higher highs, including a national championship. So, USC can say that we're close or we're 1 year away. Well, next year when you win and you call it a playoff, then I'll believe you, because I just want you to realize that Indiana will have gone to 2 playoffs and you haven't sniffed one. That's Indiana in a world where it shouldn't take you that long to turn it around. BYU, for God's sakes, could go to the playoff this year. A bunch of Mormon kids that can't drink and have sex and recruit dumbasses like me, they can go to the playoff, but you can't. Sorry, USC. It's just, you're an afterthought to me.
Yeah, I think it's funny because there are levels to this, right? And I think there's very clearly a level in college football that is, we're good enough to beat the mid-tier, but we never, ever are going to beat, like when, if you're USC, it's like, well, in our time in the Big Ten, we've never beaten Ohio State, a good Penn State team, or Oregon. It's like, so you just go 0-11 against the top tier. Penn State was in this tier. Penn State was the king of this tier for a long time under James Franklin. Like, what's your marquee win? We always beat Iowa. And it's like, right, but what's your marquee win? And it's like, well, we make the playoffs, and even that is that's why they're the king of that tier. Mm-hmm. But there's these teams that they're just never quite good enough to truly, truly compete with that top tier. And they're good enough to go 8-4, and they're good enough to beat the teams they should, but they aren't really competitive on the high level. And to me, that's where USC has been, and that's where Nebraska is. And I think Nebraska's low man on that totem pole because they have chances to go like 4-8. Like, things have spiraled out of control for them at times, and you go, what? They lost 5 one-score games this year or whatever, and they finished what? I thought they were better than that. And I think USC is firmly in the middle. If Penn State's the high end of that tier, like, you never truly fear that they're going to win the national title, but they're good enough to put up good records and recruit. The bottom of that tier is Nebraska. USC's in the middle of that tier.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to kind of do this in my head, and because I mentioned that USC, since Pete Carroll's left, has had 4 10-win seasons, right? 4. And I'm looking here, and again, just because USC and Oregon now on the West Coast, that's kind of what we're doing here, right? It's like, that those are the 2 power programs. So Oregon in that same time period, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and soon to be 12.
10 win seasons, you mean?
10 win seasons.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, Washington at USC will tell you is not what they'll say. Washington is beneath USC. Would you care to guess how many Washington has? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the way, in that time, played for a national championship. So, this idea, this is where I just say we think of USC differently than we think of Washington, right? And you've shared a coach, you've shared 7-win Steve, and you both kind of had you've had some dips. Now, I would say obviously the dips for Washington have been worse, right? The Jimmy Lake thing was a disaster. And of course, Ty Willingham, although that was, back when Pete Carroll was coaching. Yeah. But, Chris Peterson had a 12-win season, a 10-win season, a 10-win season. DeBoer had an 11-win season, and then had a 14-win season and played for a national title. So you ask me, if we're looking over the last 15 years, who's had a better run, USC or UW? But we don't talk about UW like, oh, UW's close. UW's is one recruiting class away. UW's 1 player away. We don't, but we do with USC simply because well, I guess they don't have a name on their back of their jersey or a name on the front, but because the little Trojan helmet, and we want to think about Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll ain't at USC anymore. So sorry, they're the Dallas Cowboys. We spend way too much time talking about a program that hasn't done anything that is worth having these sort of in-depth conversations. I will go in depth with USC when USC shows me that they're worth going in depth, but they're a top 20 school. They aren't a top 10 school. I mean, my God, you can make the argument they're not a top 15 school. Because if I ask someone, is Washington a top 15 program in the country? A lot of people would balk at that. Well, if Washington isn't, then neither is USC, because Washington has had a better run. I will take the last 15 years of the Washington Huskies than I will the 15 years of the USC Trojans. I'll take that any day. Chris Peterson has done a better job than anyone at USC did, and Kalen DeBoer in his short time certainly did a better job. Like, think about that. Kalen DeBoer and Lincoln Riley, roughly around the same time, right? Kalen DeBoer, 2 years, 11-2, 14-1, and played for a national title. And then USC. So it just interesting perspective there when you take a 30-foot view and you pull out to what those programs really are as opposed to perception.
I think you're right. I think one of the things and one of the main aspects people point to is that USC's recruiting class is number 1 or number 2 in the rankings right now. And I think that's really misleading. I want people to be really careful with that. They have 34 commitments, and you get points based on each commit.
Yeah.
So if you load up with a bunch of 4 and high 3-star guys, you can finish with the number 1 or number 2 class. It doesn't mean that you're super close. And you look and you go by rating per recruit, average quality of the guy you're bringing in. USC drops to 9th. You know who's number 1? Oregon. I mean, so this idea that they've crossed the Rubicon and have figured it all out, and they have the number 1 recruiting class, and here they come. It's really inflated, because if you gave them just the average number of commits, they'd be 7th, 8th, 9th, and we'd say, okay,
that's still really good.
It's still good. It's good. It's not, we're ready to say they're back. Like, you'd say, okay, progress, not they're back. And people want to say they're back, and it's just dumb. Quickly, just Oregon, with the Oregon game. I keep hemming and hawing, and it's funny because I think this season has gone a lot like my feelings about Dante, where I'm like, wow, he's going to be 1-1. And then I go, well, he could come back. Wow, he makes some throws. He could be 1-1. It's going to be up to him whether he wants to go. If he goes, I think he's going to be a top 10 pick on potential and flash and what he flashes.
He should come back, in my opinion.
I think so too. There were a couple of throws, including that out route to Jeremiah McClellan on 3rd and 11, where McClellan trips over himself. Yeah. And that's such an elite throw. To throw that on a rope, a timing route on 3rd and 12 on an out for a first down past the sticks. There are like 3 dudes in college football that can make that throw, and there are even maybe half the quarterbacks in the NFL that do not make.
Well, he's an effortless thrower.
It's unreal. Yeah.
When I look at arm talent, that's always my thing, right? There's you can see this in Major League Baseball too. There's guys that throw hard, and it looks like they're throwing hard, right? I mean, yeah, it's and then there's other guys that just, they kind of get up, and Randy Johnson was this way, and it's just like this arm whip, and it just comes out of his hand. It looks different. The throw to Sadiq, up the seam, he throws an amazing seam ball, and it's not one of these load up. He's got a really quick release. He is. I would like to see him actually move around a little bit more. I think he's a big guy. And he can scoot, but they don't have him move around a lot. And at the next level, I think, scrambling and being able to improvise is such a big part of it. I just think he's scratching the surface. And so much of success in the NFL is how many games you've played in college. Yep. And so, look, if he comes out, and it's a very weak class, when you look at quarterbacks that are coming out, this may have been the ultimate hype college class that turned out to be dog crap. Some of the guys that
per quarterback,
per quarterback, right? I mean, there's most of the guys that just did nothing to help themselves and actually hurt themselves quite a bit. So I have no doubt if Dante Moore comes out, he would be a high pick. I just think with the way you can get paid in college now, I mean, he'll get $3 million to stay at Oregon. Oh, I mean, $3 million to stay at Oregon. You're going to have a better team, I think, next year than you will with this squad. And you can actually really learn to fine tune. I think the stuff that I want to see from Dante Moore is pre-snap stuff, recognition, some of the decision making when it comes to that, really learning to play the position and get comfortable. So if I was that young man, advising him, look, come take a couple $1 million, come back, try to win a national title, and actually put yourself in a better situation to go into the NFL and succeed, as opposed to going into a place, getting drafted high, telling them that you're going to sit for a year, and then Jackson Dart it 3 weeks in, you're playing behind a crappy O-line. Obviously, if you look at some of the, from Iowa to Indiana, even Wisconsin a little bit, some of the pre-snap looks, some of the zone pressures and stuff gave you problems. So come back and hone that stuff in. And he's a student of the game. I just think it can't be a money thing at this point. You're going to get paid. And I think he would set himself up a lot by coming back and taking another year of this, especially if Will Stein's back and it's the same kind of group and your receivers are coming back. And, Oregon will find some guys to replace their O-line. They do every year in the transfer portal. So I just don't see the downside. But, if you get feedback that says you're going to be the number 7 overall pick, I get it. I mean, it's hard to turn down the NFL and not have to dink around in college. But he seems like the sort of kid that isn't necessarily willing to, that isn't necessarily just chasing the quick bag.
In the last, I think it's decade, it might be 12 years. I heard a podcast talk about how quarterbacks have done, and I think it was Robert Mace. So I want to give him credit where credit's due. I think it was Robert Mace who said, if you go back and look at guys who have had like the one good season, and they could even be 2-year starters if it was a Dante Moore or a Zach Wilson, right? Like an uneven year and then they exploded. Those dudes have not panned out. There's one guy in the last 12 years that they've said has figured it out and been pretty good. And it was Sam Darnold, who absolutely floundered for the first, 3-4 years. So he's more of a reclamation project. There has not been a guy who's been a 1-year superstar starter. And again, Dante qualifies for this because he had kind of a half-year struggle year at UCLA. There hasn't been a single guy in the last decade who's been a 1-year superstar who went on to the NFL and was drafted high and had any success. Darnold, again, is the only guy, and he's on team 3. And he did it with team 2 with the Vikings, but he's on his 3rd team. So the NFL is complicated. It's hard to play in the NFL. And it doesn't matter how good you've been in the last decade. If you've had one really, really good year and you leave, you fail. I mean, that's just the reality. So I'm sure he's looking at that. I listen to a ton of draft content, a ton of it. And every single podcast right now that I listen to says the buzz, and they're talking to like the agent side, right? The league side, is that Dante has quietly Dante's camp has quietly let people know he's very likely to come back. They do entire mock drafts, and they'll say, well, if Dante were here, but we all kind of know he won't be. So they're very confident that he's coming back. So I think that's a good sign because those guys know. And they've been right before. I've listened to them for years. They've been pretty much nails this time of year when they say, this guy's leaving, this guy's coming back, especially at the quarterback position. They're almost always right because they're getting the NFL side. So the fact that Dante is projected to come back is huge. And I do think he's the number 1 pick in 2 years. Yeah. It's hate week, Oregon, Washington.
Let's get hate week.
It's really interesting because I think we went into the year, and this is roughly where we thought Washington would be. And I know Oregon fan wants to say, no, you guys said they were 1 away. Well, they were. They had one game they shouldn't have lost. If they won this game would be for a college football playoff. And we said when Oregon and Washington play, Oregon's going to be favored. I think Oregon's going to win, but Washington might go into that game with a lot on the line. They lost a game they shouldn't have lost, and now there's not a lot on the line. They're not up for a college football playoff spot. The other thing I would say, and we talked about it last week, I talked about it a lot, that to me, it was going into that USC game was the perfect time to look at the West Coast power rankings in a way, because Oregon I didn't feel had any fear of USC. And I think the play calling from both sides showed that. And I said, Washington's actually closer to Oregon than USC is, even though people don't want to buy it. Their issue, and you said this at the beginning of the season, their issue is depth. And if they're hurt, they're in trouble. Well, guess what? Oregon's hurt, but has depth. Washington is really hurt and just doesn't have the depth. Their left side was out for the middle part of the season. They're back. But this is an offensive lineman. If you miss a month of the season and you come back, you're not coming back at 100% and you're good to go. You're coming back banged up as soon as you can help your team. Now the entire right side of the offensive line is hurt. Jonah Coleman, their star running back, who looked like he was going to be a Doak Walker finalist for the first half of the season,
been beat up.
He's really beat up. He had 4 carries for 6 yards last week against UCLA. It was a 48-14 ball game. Like, he's banged up. Denzel Boston didn't have a catch, didn't play. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks. He's potentially the debate prior to Boston getting hurt was Mekhi Lemon or Denzel Boston for the number 1 receiver in this class. He's now not playing. You look at the defensive side of the ball, they've been pretty good all year, but they're not gangbusters, and their offense just hasn't found a rhythm. Consistently, they haven't consistently found a rhythm. They'll go a half where they have no points, and then they explode for 30, 31 in the second half. I think this is a game Oregon should roll, particularly the way it's played out. Everyone's fully healthy. I'd say they've got some weapons and they've got some matchup nightmares. I still think Oregon wins, but be careful because if Williams gets hot and Coleman can run, they've got a chance. They just look way too banged up to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said all along I thought this could be a big-time game. And, you're one horrible performance in bad weather away from it being a monster game. Had they beaten Wisconsin, and they had no business losing to Wisconsin, none. And it was kind of a similar situation where, when Oregon played them. Crappy weather, people beat up, all that stuff, and they ended up losing 13-10. Had they handled their business there, we would be talking about a Washington team that was riding a 4-game heater that is a 2-loss team and has a chance to make the college football playoff. Does that sound
the same as Oregon USC last week? Right.
Exactly the same. And by the way, I'd like to point out, for as much as we talk about USC's offense, USC's offense, at times puts up 20-something points. It's not like they're scoring 50 points every game. In the last 4 games, you take the Wisconsin game when they scored 10 points, it was dreadful. Washington scored 42 against Illinois, 49 against Purdue, 48 against UCLA. It's not exactly great competition, but this is my point. When Washington gets it going, Washington looks really good. They scored 38 against Rutgers. I think they had 21.5 against Maryland. Washington is one of those that Washington's good. I actually think is better than USC's good. It's just that it's not the most consistent good.
Right.
And again, there are injuries, right? Their center's out. Their right tackle's out. The backup tackle's out. Jacob Manu, who's a guy that they need in the middle, is now out. The secondary is dealing with some injuries. So they're beat up, and we know that they don't have the depth. And I think one of the big things that we saw in that game with Oregon and USC was depth. Both of those teams were beat up. We can talk about how hurt Oregon was. USC was just as banged up.
Yep.
2 best offensive linemen out, 2 best defenders out. Actually, maybe 3 of your top 4 defenders were out. They're down 3 running backs. King Miller has been doing a nice job, but I think he came into the season. He was a former walk-on.
Yep.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was their 4th-string running back coming into the season. So, both those teams were beat up, and you just saw the depth of Oregon kind of overwhelm USC when it mattered. And I do think that may be the case here is UW and USC are nowhere near the depth and the overall talent. But this is a true rivalry game. It's in Seattle. And like I said, I think UW's high is actually higher than USC. So I said all along, I thought this game was the more dangerous of the games for Oregon. And the other one too is Oregon's playing for a home playoff game, but they're in. Regardless of what happens up in Seattle, they're in. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Dan Lanning will allow his guys to take their foot off the gas, especially it being a rivalry week. But you do not have the feral, oh my God, if we lose this game to USC, next week is 4-hour season. And UW's playing free. They got nothing to play for. So you have a hostile environment. Could be, I haven't seen the weather. I don't know what the rain situation is going to be like up there. But tough environment to play in, on the road, team playing free and easy. Oregon,
Thanksgiving week, which always kind of throws a weird wrench in things.
Weird wrench in it. Mobile quarterback that can run around a little bit in Damon Williams. A defense that's better than you think. A defense that has played really good in their biggest games this year against teams that they've lost. UW's defense has kept them in every game, kept them in the Michigan game. Just Damon Williams was awful in it, kept him in the Ohio State game, certainly kept him in the Wisconsin game.
Ohio State had 14 points going into the 4th quarter against Washington.
And here's an Oregon team that, and I don't know what the injury situation is because everyone plays it so close to their cards. But I don't think that the Poncho and Harkey injuries are like long term. I mean, they were saying, yeah, I think that's a week to week. And so we'll see what happens with the receivers and who comes back.
And World played. He just didn't make a huge impact, but he did play. So you'd think a week later he'd be healthier unless he re-aggravated something.
But, if Oregon's beat up and they kind of spin their wheels on offense, as we've seen from time to time, like I just said, I think this is a more dangerous game for Oregon than last week's. But ultimately, what do I expect? Kind of the same thing.
Me too.
I expect this to be, I think I said 35-24 in the USC game, ended up being a little more than that. But that's what I would think. Gun to my head, I think this has, Oregon by 10. And I think that's about what the spread is, because I think Oregon's about 10 points better. But if I have a pucker factor, for the Ducks, it would be higher with this Washington team than it would USC. And that's kind of the way I kind of view this. And a lot of Washington too is what Damon Williams shows up. When Damon Williams has it cooking, he's really exciting. But boy, bad Damon Williams is it is feast or famine.
He's young Cam Ward. That's exactly who he is.
Yep.
When Cam Ward was young, before the hype, before he went to Miami, he had games where he was electric, and Washington State was in games and even won some games they had no business winning because he just made plays. They had other games where he threw 3 picks, took a 20-yard sack going backwards he shouldn't have taken, and they got blasted by people. Damon Williams is a lot like young Cam Ward, and that's kind of scary because, again, it's just another – the highs are high, the lows are low. If he shows up and plays the highs, Oregon's got a dogfight on their hands. Yeah. If he plays poorly and it spirals, Oregon could win 42-7. I mean, they really could. Washington is a really weird team. And we've said all year on this podcast, the vibes are off and the consistency is just off with those teams. But I think we knew exactly who USC was. And that's why in the podcast in the preview show last week, we said USC's not beating Oregon. Oregon's just too good in the right spots where USC can't hang. So Oregon can methodically just play their style of football and they'll win. USC cannot beat Oregon. Yeah. Washington's high can beat Oregon. It's just threading a really, it's like threading a really fine needlehead to get that thread through there to say that's how they're going to win. The chances are very slim. But if they play great football, their highs are very high. Yeah.
Well, and we look at it like from – not to say that USC's USC's defense is anything that is extraordinary, and far from it, right? We're going to sit there and we're going to kind of mock that, but this is Washington has a better defense than USC does.
Yes,
and look, again, by no stretch of the imagination am I saying USC's defense did anything amazing against Oregon, but it did keep them around in that game. If you didn't have the horrid interceptions, which my God, and the special teams play, USC's in that game, right? And when you look at from a defensive standpoint, no matter what metric you look at, Washington is a much better defense. We for some reason we talk about Washington's defense because we thought going into the year that it was kind of going to be kind of shit and that the offense would carry them, but it's just not true. When you look at total defense, you look at yards, Washington is the 6th best defense in the Big Ten. I think their rushing defense, look here, and again, it depends on what metric you want to go by, right? But if you look at yards given up, defense,
it's complicated because they've been ahead in a lot of their games.
Been ahead, so their
pass defense, generally speaking, you would say is better because their secondary, particularly those corners, a pair of 6'4" corners, are really talented, like NFL draft level talented.
But from a pass defensive rating, that's actually the worst. And so they're 9th, right? So their pass defense is 9th, which you said is a little screwy because, a lot of teams
are often way ahead and they've thrown in the second half. Yeah.
9th is the worst is the worst metric that they are. Everything else is this is a top half Big Ten defense. Mm-hmm. And we don't think of
it with an offense that can put up points in the 40s,
which is why
when they're firing.
But that's not always the case. So again, Oregon better. I think they're 10 points better. But we talked about this because it was a hype game and game day was coming. We talked about the USC game like, and this is a more dangerous game on the road with a better defense. and an offense that when cooking, and that's the thing, when I think USC is more consistent, but when they're cooking, I just think this is a better team. So
with a mobile quarterback,
they
can just extend drives. That's it.
So I just keep an eye on it, man. This is if you told me in the fourth quarter, this was kind of one of those, oh, well, okay. This is something that wouldn't shock me at all. It just wouldn't. So I just keep an eye on. I think this has potential to be a good game. But you know how we feel about it. I think both of us are in the same page. It's just Oregon is they're just too talented, top to bottom, especially this time of the year when a lot of this becomes a war of attrition and who's got the depth and no one on the West Coast and really outside of those truly elite teams is deep and as talented top to bottom as Oregon.
I think more than likely Oregon very comfortably wins this game, especially with as banged up as Washington is. To me, that loss to Wisconsin, there's always a chance that this team, especially some of those guys that are banged up that are going to be first, second round picks go, what am I really playing for? Like, do I really want to get hurt again? Like a Boston or a Coleman? Are they fully bought in and this is like their Super Bowl? Or is it like, hey, we're not making the college football playoff. I'm hurt. And if it's Oregon could really easily roll. And I think that's very, very in play. I think a blowout win is in play for Oregon. I think a close game where Oregon, you never really feel afraid of Washington is very in play. I think those are the most two, a repeat of last week where Oregon was in control. They win by 2 scores. They're comfortable. That to me is the most likely scenario. I think a blowout by Oregon is also very possible if Washington's as banged up as they might be. And we've got some guys who go, I'm not sure this is for me. Yeah. It is also possible that they treat this like this is their Super Bowl. They get a little healthy. They get in a rhythm. Oregon struggles to slow down Williams' legs. He's able through that to throw, and they make it a really, really good ball game. It's funny because we've seen every iteration of this Washington team. People forget they were right there with Ohio State in the fourth quarter, and then things unraveled. Very much like Oregon's game, to be honest, against Indiana, where at the start of the fourth quarter, Oregon was right. They were behind, but they were right there. And then it unraveled and it looked like they didn't really have a shot. It's not true. You start that fourth quarter again, I think Oregon would say, hey, if we execute better, we can win that football game. I think Washington would say it's an uphill battle, but if our offense could have hit a groove, our defense was fine, we could have upset Ohio State. Instead, it looks 24-6, and that seems silly. So just be careful looking at their results and thinking they don't have a shot. Like they lost to Michigan. Yeah. That was one of those games where Damon Williams just absolutely est the bed.
It was as bad a game as you'll see a talented quarterback play all year.
If he plays well, they beat Michigan. And that's a big if, right? Because Michigan does some things to you defensively that make you not play well. But if Williams plays a good game rather than the worst game I've ever seen him play by miles, they probably beat that Michigan team too. And we're talking about a very, very different game. So just be careful looking at this and thinking, this Washington team's not that great because their highs are very high. Oregon State, Washington State, I don't care. I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't think a win does anything for you if you're Oregon State. I think if you're Washington State, you feel better because you lost the last one when you shouldn't have. 10-7 ball game. I think it's going to be better than 10-7. I would be kind of surprised if Washington State doesn't win this football game. Oregon State has just they've just imploded. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like you and I talked in the preview, and we also, by the way, sometimes we talk, obviously, off the air, and we both give honest opinions, and sometimes you're a little careful because you're protecting a fan base, or you don't want to totally bash a team. And we said in the preseason, what's the worst that could happen for Oregon State? Even off air, this is worse than anything we talked about. 100%. Any scenario we talked about, this is worse. Yeah. So I have no idea what to make of this Oregon State team. Do they say, hey, let's play for pride? That's what this game is, a play for pride game. I haven't seen a lot of play for pride from Oregon State this year. I haven't seen buy-in from Oregon State like that this year. When you're, backup then starter Jabari Johnson or whatever he is at this point, because they've got 3 quarterbacks. When he says openly in a press conference, we had guys quitting consistently in our games starting in week 1. I don't know how you project a team to win. Yeah. Like, what do you do? What do you do?
But at the same time, I don't know what to make of Washington State. Like, I don't know if maybe that Ole Miss Virginia one just took a lot of their life away because they've lost to Oregon State, they lost to James Madison. I mean, I don't know. This hasn't been the year for either one of those squads that you were hoping for. So that 10-7, can I just don't give me that game? That was one of the worst games in the history of the Pac-12. That Oregon State Washington State game.
It was horrific.
It was just bad. So give me something other than that. I mean, no one's playing for anything at this point, as you mentioned.
Washington State is playing for potential bowl eligibility.
Oh, that's true. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4.
They're 5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6.
6 and 6, and things would have to break right, but they would be bowl eligible.
Go and then go Cougs. Go to a bowl. That's true. I thought they were one shy, but nope, you're right. So this is potentially going to a bowl game. So something to play for. The Cougs get this one, and they split the Pac-12 title, and hopefully not the worst game I've ever seen.
More important is the Oregon State coaching deal. It should be done relatively soon.
Hopefully this week.
It needs to be done before signing day. It needs to be done before signing day. Yeah. Any feelings on this? It does seem like it's centering on 2 FCS coaches and a receiver coach, co-offensive coordinator that the Northwest knows pretty well.
Yeah, so we got Vegan out of Montana State, Shepard, who's the offense coordinator, receivers coach, co-offense coordinator down at Alabama, and then Pulsick, who is North Dakota State, right? It sounds like those three. It sounds like Paul Chryst took his name out of the running for personal reasons. That to me kind of more sounds like Oregon State decided to go in a different way, and then he was like, well, I didn't really want that job anyways. I just love when that happens. I've decided to pull my name out. I really wanted the job, and now it turns out that I'm not going to get the job. Therefore, I didn't want the job in the first place.
I think that was smart. This Oregon State team, to me, is so lacking in depth, and that's what happens when you recruit classes that don't have top 1,000 kids. You're getting Big Sky and below level kids at that point. I mean, that's
not good.
It's embarrassing. I mean, the recruiting results have been horrific. I mean, just beyond horrific. It's hard to cover. Like, that used to almost be the threshold of whether they'd offer a guy, and now they're trying to get a single guy to break the top 1,000 that they keep and sign. It's hard to put into words how bad it's mid-tier group of 5 crap. I mean, it's horrible. Yeah. So your depth, if you do that multiple years in a row, is going to be flat out awful. And we've seen that. And you know where it shows up? Like, hey, our bodies are not even D1 bodies. Look at special teams. That's where that shows up. When you get guys who aren't your starters, but you have to keep them on the roster because you brought them in, and they're so bad that they don't even belong in the FCS, and it showed on paper as recruits, that's where it's like, hey, how come we can't get a snap off? Well, because your backups belong at a Division III school, Division II school. So they need either an FCS coach who's a winner who can bring 15 bodies with him. It's for depth, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are starters at the Pac-12 level, and
but Indiana
the rest are depth. You need a Kirk Cignetti situation. Yeah. And I don't necessarily mean that projects them to back-to-back playoffs in a few years. That's the pie in the sky view of that. But you need to bring in depth. So whether you do that through a Montana State or a North Dakota State, I'm cool with that. Or you go get a young, exciting coach who, not in this world, you can't promise anybody's going to be there multiple years, but at least you're getting him on the low end. And that's why Jerry Neuheisel to me came up in the beginning, is like, that's a dude who has so much to learn as a head coach that you might get a 5-year runway with him.
Yeah.
Where, it's a learning curve, but you also get some stability for a while. I think Shepard is a young, exciting coach who has some experience in the Northwest. He coached receivers at Washington, Adunze, Polk, McMillan, that whole thing. Obviously recruited or was part of the recruiting for some of the guys that they have now that are really good. Mm-hmm. So I think you go that route and you get a young, exciting coach who can really recruit and get you up to snuff quickly. Or you get a successful FCS coach and say, he's going to bring 20 bodies and address the depth.
And that's what you have. And honestly,
Chris, you weren't doing that. 3 years away. He has no connection to recruits. He doesn't have connection to anybody who he can just call in the portal and say, I'm bringing these guys. He's too far removed. So it makes sense that these are the two directions they're potentially going.
And I wouldn't be able to offer, vegan better than Pulisic better. Yeah, I don't know. I will say this, that if you're going the Montana, North Dakota route, I think vegan has been more of the program builder. And take nothing away from Pulisic and what he's done at North Dakota State. But he didn't build that. It just, they've just been, whoever they have, it's just, they just win national titles. So you're just like, that thing is just cruising. Whereas vegan came into Montana State and they were fine. But he got there and they went from solid program to, I mean, they're playing for national championships. I mean, he's gone 12-3, 12-2, 8-4, 15-1, 10-2. And has taken him to the doorstep. Whereas, Pulisic he inherited a juggernaut. I mean, I don't think people appreciate what North Dakota State's doing at their level. They're on a UConn women's basketball sort of heater.
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, and that's, Craig Bowl, who, and he ended up going to Wyoming. He's a Craig Bowl guy, by the way. And he ended up, going to Wyoming and then Kansas State. And yeah, he's been okay. It hasn't been like the greatest thing in the world, but he's been fine. Both offensive minds, both of those guys, Vegan and Pulisic, are both offensive dudes that can build an offense.
Vegan was the Eddie Robinson FCS Coach of the Year last year.
Yeah.
And I think that matters when you're comparing North Dakota State and Montana State, because from a degree of difficulty standpoint, let's kind of comp it to current college football. In the high level, North Dakota State, Georgia. Right. So it's like Kirby Smart winning Coach of the Year versus more of a, Kurt Cignetti at Indiana this year. That's to me more what Vegans win last year. Montana State's a really good program. I'm not taking anything away from them, but they're not Georgia. They're not Alabama of the FCS. So for him to win that means, I think a degree of difficulty that deserves some credit. And that's why I think you're right. Vegan has had the tougher degree of difficulty, and because of that, you give him more credit as a program builder.
Craig Bowl came in, and since Craig Bowl, you've gone Craig Bowl, Chris Klieman, and who left to go be USC's. He took a position at USC, and then Pulisic. Like, no matter who's there, dude, they just roll.
Right.
I mean, that's all they do. That's all they do is go win. So, and I don't know if that. I don't know what sort of thing that plays into that. Do you just sit down and? I mean, a lot of this is going to be how you interview. You have two coaches with unbelievable resumes and another guy, like you said, that is potential. And I always said, for me, I always kind of side on when I'm a school like Oregon State, I want to swing for the upside and try to catch the rising star. I want to go get the Chip Kelly. I want to go get from New Hampshire. I want Jim Tressel from Youngstown State. But if you told me that you got the Montana State or the North Dakota State coach, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to say that that's what Washington State did, and they went South Dakota State. So I think regardless of who you go with, I think if you're Oregon State, you have to be somewhat optimistic about what you're doing. I don't think there's one of these hires that you are going to be able to look at and crap on and say, why did we do that? You can't. I don't know how you're going to pick that apart.
No, I'm with you. I think they seem to be on from a coaching hire standpoint, a respectable track. Yes. Where they're not going to hire somebody and go, Jesus, they've fallen this far. They're going to go get somebody that has a chance. And that's kind of what we were saying when people were talking about bring back Jonathan Smith, bring back Trent Bray, hire Smith and then bring back Bray. And we were saying, you guys are you don't realize how much better you are than what you're being given right now. You're a much better program in a much better spot. And if you're an FCS coach or you're a young up and coming position coach / co-coordinator, Oregon State has a lot of advantages in the new Pac-12. They should be one of the three powers in the new Pac-12. Now, it's not a great football conference. It's not an elite conference. But if you're drawing a roadmap to 8 or 9 wins, you can do that a whole hell of a lot more consistently in this iteration of the Pac-12 than you could in the last one, where you needed every single thing to break right and you needed your recruits to shine. and be special out of the 3-star guys you were getting. People do forget how many of those, like Sean Mannion, Brandon Cooks, how many of those guys were actually 4-star dudes. Like their best guys, believe it or not, were the blue chip guys. Shocker, other than Simonton and the Rogers brothers. But you're in a position where you should win. And I don't mean to say you're going to pad a resume at Oregon State, but the degree of difficulty at Oregon State has gotten much easier in a regular season slate. Program building, much harder. But from just win your games, it's actually a better spot.
Oregon State has an advantage over 99% of the people in their group of what now? It's a group of 6,
in
right?
their tier, yeah.
In their tier, they have an advantage over 99% of the program. So I still think this can be a good job. And I think you're getting good candidates. I don't think this is. I don't think you're going to look at this to me as a bad job. I also wanted to point out just real quick again, if you do go with Pulisic, not that he's the sole reason, but since 2011, which again, do some math. 2011, we're in 2025. North Dakota has won 10 national championships. It's just like we don't talk about that enough. I don't care what level. I don't care if you've won 10 WCA girls under 10 national championships in water polo. Dude, you win 10 national championships from 2011,
15 years or whatever, 14 years.
Yeah. And by the way, they're 8-0 and they're first in the country right now. I maybe just go get that guy. Just be like, I just go bring some of that North Dakota State. Just go see if you can hire the entire North Dakota State program. Just pick it up and move it to Corvallis or get a satellite campus out wherever the hell North Dakota State is and just do that.
I talked to you, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked about teams that feel like in a pie in the sky scenario, in a dream scenario, they could win a national championship.
Yeah.
And then we talked after the Duck game and you talked about teams that should be happy to be in the college football playoff versus expect to do real damage.
Yeah.
I want to go over the teams. I want you to tell me how many of the teams should be, not their fan base will be, but should be disappointed if they don't at least make the semifinals. Okay. So round one or quarters, right? So if you're not an automatic qualifier, you have to win twice, or anything less than that, you should be disappointed.
Sure.
Or if you were an automatic qualifier, you have to at least win a game, right? Yeah. So 1 or 2 wins, okay?
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, Ohio State, honestly, I think is you play for a national title or it's a disappointment at this point.
Indiana.
So you're going to get in the bye.
You have to make the semifinals. So you have to win a college football playoff game, but you probably get Georgia, Alabama, or Oregon.
No, I don't think that's a disappointment. Indiana is on a phenomenal trajectory. If you do, you're just being spoiled. You're being a spoiled brat. No, not Indiana.
Okay, so we got to 1.
Yeah.
Before there's questions, and this is kind of going to lead to my next point. Texas A&M have to make the semifinals or a disappointment of a year.
No, Texas A&M has never done jack shit, and you have an undefeated season. Now, you could be bummed and think it's an opportunity, but dude, go watch Texas A&M. Dude, Texas A&M easily could have 3 losses. So, no,
including a couple of 2 and 3 wins.
Yeah, you should not be like, oh, this season, ended on a what were we doing?
Georgia.
Yeah, I think Georgia has put themselves in that conversation like Ohio State, where I think they have better expectations, and I think those are reasonable. I think, I don't think it's national title or bust. Maybe the only team that can say that is Ohio State. But yeah, I think if Georgia got bounced in the first round, or the second if they get a bye, which they easily could, yeah, I think Georgia would probably say that.
Okay, don't move the goalposts on me here. Oregon. Because you said last time, even if they lose in the first round, they should be comfortable with that because this isn't the year. And last year's team was better, and next year's team will be better.
It depends. Honestly, it depends on this. I don't mean to be offensive. Who do you play? Because I think
they're going to have to win 2 though, so that's important because they're not getting a bye. So
they're not getting a bye. So that's what I'm saying.
If they win 1 and make the quarters and play
Ohio State or Georgia, if they lose, let's say that they beat Washington, some things happen, and they end up as that 6th seed, and you get the ACC champ, right? Which is a very real possibility.
Yep.
So they played the ACC champ, which, God, I don't know, Georgia Tech, whoever, just, and you lose that game. Absolutely. That's a disappointment. But you beat Georgia Tech and then you get Georgia or you get Ohio State and they beat you. No, I don't think that's a disappointment because I've said it all along. I think the next 2 years are where I think I will take the idea that Oregon is really in a window. Last year felt like a team that could win a national title. And I've said it all along. This doesn't feel like a team to me that can win a national title. So, yeah, so it depends on who you play. But no, I do not think that not winning 2 games this season should be a disappointment. I do not believe that for Oregon.
I think I'm safe in just now listing teams: Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, Vanderbilt, Miami. I speak for. I'll answer for you. No, if those teams get in, they're not getting a bye. No. I don't think so. That would mean winning one, losing the next one. I don't think you can hang a hat on any of those teams to say, if we don't win 2 playoff games, we failed, because they're not even close. They're not stiff in the bye at this point. No. My point with all that is, outside of Georgia and Ohio State, who I don't think either of us think are absolute juggernauts, they're just storied programs who expect to be there. Yeah. Someone's going to have to make the title game, unless it's Ohio State versus Georgia. Yeah. That it's not gravy, but it's not the expectation. And I think when you go into a year like that, I think that makes it that much harder for the fan base, not necessarily, us as analysts. It makes it harder for them to view things in the proper lens. Yeah. Because you say, if you squint, we could win 3 or 4 in a row.
Sure.
And I think someone's going to. I think someone's going to be in that title game. Again, unless it's Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, if they make the national title game, they're like beyond. Their program's never even sniffed anything like that. Yeah. Texas A&M, same. Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama. All of those teams getting in the title game, maybe not Alabama because of tradition. Their fans would be, high and mighty about it. All of those fan bases would be like, holy shit, we're here.
Yeah.
I would argue to you, the other team, and I could be saying this wrong. I might be saying this wrong. The other fan base who would say, yeah, we're in the title game, we're blank, out of the teams that are here, is Oregon. Yeah. Ohio State and Georgia, they've won it recently. They expect to be here. Indiana would do backflips. They've never been there before. As you said, Texas A&M hasn't done S. Oregon's 5th. Yeah. Ole Miss is dealing with the Lane Kiffin stuff. Them making a national title this year, they'd be so happy that, holy crap, we finally have emerged. Texas Tech never expects to get there. Oklahoma is good on one side of the ball right now. Yeah. Notre Dame, they've had some uneven moments. Yeah. Alabama, BYU, I don't know if they're going to win a game in the playoffs. So if they made it, they're
probably not going to make it. Texas Tech's going to alleyway.
I would argue the team that, out of all the teams in the country, if we're ranking them in terms of odds, and their fan base would say we're the most likely to be there, I think Oregon's 3rd. And I don't think you can even make a case for anybody else being 3rd.
No, that is a very, very valid point for as far as expectations go. Yeah, it's just, this is going to be one of those weird years that, like you mentioned, plenty of schools are going to say, why not us? But when you fall short of it, they're not going to be like, oh my God, what happened?
And I hope that's the perspective that Oregon fan has. And I think this is where we kind of disagreed on last week's show. I was talking more about that like, hey, Oregon kind of expects to be, and they're good. So I get it. And you were saying it would be foolish for this team, arguably their 3rd best team of next year and last year and this year, to be like, oh, we only made the semis, we failed. And I think there are some Oregon fans that might feel that way. And that would be wrong. If you make the Final Four, you're not disappointed in basketball ever making the Final Four, unless you're an undefeated one.
Well, I'll just say this.
They have a chance.
To me, if you lose to Ohio State this year and versus losing to Ohio State last year, I will view those, and again, maybe how the game goes, because last year, you just got alley whipped. But to me, losing to Ohio State the second year in a row, while it would be disappointing to obviously get bounced by Ohio State, and it's like, my God, what do we have to do to get over these guys in the postseason? I will view those losses very differently, even if they happened in the same way, right? You play Ohio State and they're just better than you. Last year, I would say, man, you missed an opportunity. I still think if Oregon could have found a way to get by Ohio State, I think Oregon could have won a national title last year. They looked like a national title team to me. And if you lost to Ohio State this year, I'd be like, that's about right. I just I didn't think this was a national title team. So it's, same team, same result. I view it differently. And that's just kind of and I know a lot of Oregon fan disagrees with me, and that's fine. You can prove me wrong. Oregon certainly is capable of, if they get healthy, of winning a bunch of games and proving me wrong. That's just my 2 cents on how I would view the end of the season if it happened that way. But if Oregon gets bounced, and that's why I said a lot of this is who you play. If you get bounced by Georgia Tech, or you get bounced by an ACC school, or someone like that, I mean, God forbid, I don't know, BYU or someone, I would be like, yeah, I think you're above that. I think if you're Oregon, you're maybe not Georgia and Ohio State, or, if Texas got in or whatever, you're like, hey, we expect to win a national title every year. But I sure as hell think that Oregon has gotten to the point where you should not be losing playoff games to teams that recruit in the 20s and 30s.
Agreed. I also would say, if you're Oregon and you don't get the bye, you are good enough that you don't expect to lose in the first round at home. Yeah. I think that's a given. I think if they lose anybody that they would lose to in the first round, I don't care what you draw. I mean, you can't draw a scenario where I'm like, oh, well, they got Alabama at home, so, okay, well, at least they lost close. Hell no. Yeah. If Oregon hosts in round one, and again, that would only mean that they didn't get a bye, and it doesn't look like they're going to. They should win. Yeah. And anything less than at least the quarters and a competitive game in the quarters will be a massive failure. You can't have your season end at home as the team that's the bubble to make the bye and lose again. That would mean 2 years in a row where you have national title aspirations coming into the year. Whether or not that's justified or not, that's where you've put your program, and didn't win a playoff game. Yeah. You can't go 2 years without winning a playoff game anymore if you're Oregon. You have to win one this year. Yeah. You have to win at least one, or something is not wrong, but that's the way it'll be viewed.
Valid point. 100%.
I want to go over, we're going to pivot to the NFL real quick. We haven't done it in a while, and I just want to go over kind of the teams at the top of the standings and whether or not you think they could win the Super Bowl.
Sure.
And whether or not they're real. Because when I went over this morning for my own interest, I was really surprised at where I landed with, is this team legit?
Well, I told you, we did this on my show earlier this week. We were kind of something similar to this. We were kicking it around. As weird as the college football year is, where you're like, outside Ohio State, I don't know, maybe.
This is my point. Right.
This is so the NFL actually think it's worse.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. In the AFC East, we've got the Patriots and the Bills. I'm sorry, I don't see the Patriots being good enough. If we talk about can they win? For the Patriots, if they get in the playoffs, they're going to have to win games, at least 2, where they are not favored. No. And I don't see them as a legit contender. I mean, I think they can make the Super Bowl. They're not going to win.
But we do the Bills, and they're going to win this division, and they've beaten the Bills. So I'm with you, dude. I don't believe in New England, but people still want to believe in Buffalo. Well, New England is 3 games better and has a head-to-head win over the Bills. So it's such a weird year. But no, I can't bring myself to believe in the New England Patriots, and yet, dude, they're going to win 13 games. Look at their schedule, dude. There are not losses.
But part of that is their schedule. They had such an easy schedule because they finished so bad. This is the Niners too, different places. But the Niners had such an easy schedule. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're not.
They're going to beat the Giants. They're going to beat the Jets. And they're going to beat the Dolphins. That's a 13-win team, and they've got Buffalo and the Ravens as their other 2. They've already beaten Buffalo once, and Buffalo has problems. And for whatever reason, the Ravens now play defense, but they don't play offense. So, dude, I'm not kidding. This could be a 14. This could be a 14. This could be a 14-win New England Patriot team, and yet it'll smell like last year's Vikings. So I think we're a 13 or a 14-win team as well, and then got into the postseason. And
that quarterback year was so interesting because I had it ranked Williams, Penix, May, clear tier, and then a major drop. And I didn't like any of the other guys. I thought Bo Nix was a second or third round guy, in my opinion, because of the limited tools. He went to the perfect system, but the warts are showing here. I forget who the other guy was in that draft class, but I just wasn't. Those were the three that I really believed in. Penix has been not good, and Williams is turning a corner. It looks like, and we'll get the Bears in a minute. And Drake May is special, and it's funny the way it works because you wouldn't have said that necessarily. AFC North, Ravens, you touched on. The Steelers are 6-5 and tied for the division. I think the Steelers might be the worst plus 500 team in the league right now.
They're not good.
Terrible.
Yeah.
AFC South, the Colts are coming back down to earth in a massive way. The Jags are 7-4. Freaking spare me. That team is not good. Trevor Lawrence is gross. And the Texans, who are kind of figuring it out in the opposite way. Everybody thought, hey, their defense is okay, but Stroud and Nico Collins and the offense might figure it out because their O-line is going to be better. Nope, their offense is still dog S. Their defense is elite. I don't think I've named a team that I think is particularly good yet.
No, not really. I mean, these are all teams that could, but I am with you. I mean, they're not one of those teams. Honestly, of those teams, if I had to if you gave me odds, I got to believe eventually Lamar Jackson figures it out and Baltimore has the bones, but I don't. And
if the Texans kind of figure it out, that defense is so good and this year is so bad. Could this be a year where they get hot in the playoffs and they hold everyone to 14 points or less and win an ugly, ugly ass Super Bowl 17-10? I could see it, but this is the kind of year we might have.
Yeah, and the answer to your question is you got to go down to the AFC West because
we're there now. Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs.
Chargers know the O-line is too beat up. It just is. If they were healthy, and this is the crappy part, if the Chargers were healthy, I think the Chargers can win a Super Bowl, but they're not. They don't have either tackle. Their interior, their line is constantly in and out with Becton. And you watch Justin Herbert, he's a one-man show at this point. And, I don't care. Even when Mahomes was at his best, when he was playing with those crappy tackles, you can't get over the top. And as good as Justin Herbert is, he's not Pat Mahomes. So I take the Chargers out of it. The Chiefs, they should have lost to the Colts, but they don't because it's Kansas City. So if Kansas City makes the postseason, I wouldn't pick any of those teams above them to beat Kansas City simply because it's Kansas City and it's got Spags and Freed. But to me, it's Denver. If Bo Nix can decide to play a quarter and a half as opposed to just 1 quarter of good football and not be cheeks the other 2.5 quarters, Denver is the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, probably. NFC, I guess the Eagles and Cowboys. Again, every team seems to have a fatal flaw.
It's the Rams and everybody else.
You're not going to take the 8-3 Bears?
It's the Rams and everybody else. The 8-3 Bears are the equivalent of the Steelers. They're just in a crappier place.
I was kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's the Rams. The Rams are the one team, not in the AFC, NFC, in the NFL. The Rams are the one team that look the part. And I'll give myself a little bit of a kudos. What did I say?
No, you said this in preseason. This was your team.
I said if Matthew Stafford plays, I think I said 13 games, the Rams win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford right now is the MVP of the league.
Yes. Unless Myles Garrett wins it.
That's true. He is on an absolute heater right now. Again, injuries can occur, but they are the one squad, offense and defense. They're the most creative team right now in the league. They've got so many bodies they throw at you in that front. It's just it's so good, and they are the best, and they prove it week in and week out. And now they're kind of figuring out their earlier season. Devontae Adams, I don't think they quite knew what to make of him. Yeah. They're figure that out. They had no business at all losing that Eagles game. Still can't believe that they managed to do that. They are on an absolute heater, and they beat so are they infallible? No, but they have separated themselves in my mind as the best team. And all that stuff we did in the AFC, you can do in the NFC too. I don't know who else is good. I really don't. It's not the Eagles, not the Cowboys, not the Bears,
Not the Bucks.
not the Bucks. They're flailing. Detroit is lucky not to have lost that one against the Giants.
The brain drain there absolutely crippled them. They look at times on both sides of the ball. Yeah. They now have moments, and I don't even moments. They have quarters and halves where they look lost.
So this is going to be the most interesting NFL postseason, and this may just be who stays healthy. This may just be who's the hot team that gets healthy at the end of the year. But because Detroit's got some defensive help coming, they're going to get healthy,
and their offense is starting to
roll. So Detroit may be a team that rises up and reminds you, we should have been in the Super Bowl last year, but we decided to lose every defensive player to injury, and then decide to have the worst offensive game plan ever against the Commanders. So it could be someone like that. It could be Green Bay if they get healthy on the offensive side of the ball, though Tucker Kraft is not coming back. But if they get some receiver help coming back, I think
Jordan Love to me is in that Trevor Lawrence tier right now.
Could be.
He throws a few balls where you're just like, holy crap, bud, what are you doing?
I mean, this is a conversation for a whole other time. I know we're up against it, but quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. And like Caleb Williams has some of that Trevor Lawrence to me, where it's you
can excuse it because he's so young. You can't be doing it in year 5.
Oh, and I even mentioned like Bo Nix. Like I think Denver is the best team right now in the AFC. Watch Bo Nix play sometime, and you're like, Daniel Jones is starting to have the Sam Darnold thing, where I call it they're pulling a Scooby Doo, where they wear a mask for like 3/4 of the season, and then you rip the mask off, and it's like it's Sam Darnold all along. And that's Daniel Jones. Like he's just like someone pulled the mask off, and it's like, oh shit, it's Daniel Jones. And you're like, yeah, it's been Daniel Jones all along.
Daniel Jones, yep.
Right, and so that's kind of you're like, I don't know about that. CJ Stroud has come plummeting back down to earth over the last 2 seasons after his year where it was like his rookie year and the second one, it was like, dude, this guy is elite. And
I didn't like Stroud very much coming out. I didn't like Jaden Daniels very much coming out.
Yeah.
And their rookie years put the fear of God in me because I was like, how did I miss so bad? And then it's like,
and then Jaden Daniels is another one. It's like he had the rookie year and we were like, oh my God, he's the greatest thing ever. And is he a top 3 quarterback? Well, we'll see. Jalen Hurts. Right now it's like Jalen Hurts, he got over the hump, won a Super Bowl, and we're like, you paid him, and you're like, here it is, and it's Eagles, and it's the best roster in football. And all of a sudden we're looking around and we're like, Jalen Hurts. Very
quickly. How many teams in the league do you think if you gave their front office and their coaching staff truth serum would say, we love our quarterback situation, even if we had to give up 2 first-rounders to go get a wily vet that's good, that's about to leave somewhere? I'm just they could do the Matt Stafford deal, right? Yeah. Not now, but back. How many teams would actually say we have and love our guy?
New England.
I think it might be like 5.
I'm looking. New England, Buffalo,
Kansas City,
Baltimore. I'm just kind of going by division.
Yeah, no, do it.
I don't even think Cincinnati can say it right now because he's hurt all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Agreed.
New England, Buffalo, Baltimore, Chargers, Chiefs,
Dallas.
Yeah, with
Dak.
Dak.
Having a great year.
I'm not going to say Detroit, although I think they're close, but I'm not. And Stafford. That's it. Okay. It's the only ones. If you said there isn't a deal to be made,
because we have our guy. We're good.
You're not going to get Josh Allen, right? You're not getting
7.
You're not getting one of those. But you say under no circumstances would we do something to upgrade our quarterback position. It is only those teams. Everyone else would be more than happy to explore the idea of or have said, I wish we were better at that position.
Right.
Or that we're or like with like Cincinnati, it's not a matter of we want to be better. It's a matter of, hey, going forward, is this position settled? I don't know, because he's never healthy.
Right. I think Herbert is he's great. He's in that tier, but he's the last guy in that tier.
Yes.
I think if you offered Herbert to every other team that we didn't name, they would try to find a way to make it happen.
100%.
The Niners would. I think the Lions would, even if they pretend they wouldn't. The Packers obviously would. All those teams would. The Texans would. They all would.
100%.
And we'll give up 2 or 3 first-round picks to get a guy like Herbert.
Yep.
At the same time, I think no team in that tier would trade Herbert for their guy.
No.
And you know what I mean? He's the last guy in that tier. And I think it's really interesting because I think you start at like 8 or even 9, where maybe Hurts has the locker room and you love him, although don't ask AJ Brown. Beyond that, I think there's a lot of teams who are like, man, we need to upgrade at quarterback. The league is just not very good at quarterback right now. It's just not. And because of that, there aren't any juggernauts. There just aren't.
No.
It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. We will discuss when our next podcast is. I think there's a possibility, given timing and everything, that we may go live. We may just tape after. We'll see. But we'll discuss it. Everybody enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football. State title games are Friday night on the CW, or Friday day, 1 at noon, 1 at 5. I'm on the call for those. I'm the color commentator for the 6A and 5A state title games in Oregon. You have your show on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then do you guys have a show Friday?
No, we're off. We're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're off Thursday, Friday. So I'll be back on primetime on Monday.
And that's 3 to 7 on 105.1 The Fan. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, real quick, I don't know why YouTube put out 2 different videos. I'm still trying to figure that out. When we go live, it wants to do every iteration right now of our videos. So you get like split screen and weirdness. Yeah. I apologize for that. I think it's better to go live than not when we can. So you might have to put up with that. But other than that, I think everything went pretty well. Thank you for sticking with us. Like, subscribe, give us the 5-star review. Tell us, give us the 5-star, say our outfits are stupid, whatever you need to do, take your shot, but we'll trade it for a 5-star review if you're willing. Thank you. And we'll see you soon.